Okay, so what I've got for you today should be an amazing match of StarCraft 2. I've had these replays in my inbox for a couple of days. They were burning a hole in my Discord, okay? That's how the saying goes, right? I've been very excited to check out exactly what ended up going down in this series, because it's some of my favorite players in all of StarCraft 2 facing off against each other. It's time for a best-of-5, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on the map Oceanborn, and spawning right here in the top left-hand corner, playing with the red Protoss pieces. We have the man I've been fanboying over in my last couple of casts, because I truly believe him to be the best Protoss in the world right now. We're looking at none other than MaxPax's main Nexus. Now, any MaxPax cast as of late has been a lot of fun. The man really is, yeah, making Protoss look very powerful, which for some reason is a very uncommon thing. His opponent, though, in the opposite corner with the blue Zerg pieces, the man who, by many, myself included, is considered to be the greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time. We're looking at none other than Serral's main hatchery. Now, since MaxPax is a little bit mysterious for a little while, when he first came up, there was a rumor going around in the StarCraft community that Serral was playing under an alternate ID with a little bit of Protoss. Because Serral only really ever plays the offline events, the biggest tournaments in StarCraft 2, and MaxPax at the time, well, until right now at the very least, still today, sadly, he never plays offline tournaments. He only ever plays online. So one of my favorite rumors in the StarCraft world was that Serral was winning tournaments playing Protoss under a different ID. You know, like when writers that are very successful are trying to figure out whether or not they're just getting published because of their name or because of their writing, so they decide to, yeah, come up with like a new ID themselves too, and they write a book, try to publish it under a different name. Anyways, I was getting very similar vibes. Turns out it wasn't the case, but these two, they definitely don't play against each other very frequently at all. It's pretty uncommon, so Serral only ever signs up for the biggest offline tournaments, generally speaking at least. Right now, I guess there's a little bit of a lull until DreamHack Atlanta. But anyways, MaxPax, he only ever plays online. So these two, historically, really haven't played against each other that often. So why exactly did they play against each other this week? So this particular series is the finals of the Kung Fu Cup. So this is, I think, about a $1,500 weekly tournament that is put on by the Chinese community. So massive shout out to the WTO and SC Boy and all the people involved there, because a lot of the replays that I've been casting as of late are from the Chinese community. They've been incredibly awesome, but anyhow, every once in a while, apparently, a $600 or so first place prize is enough to entice Serral to play in your event. Now, MaxPax plays in basically everything, so... Ooh. Serral actually opening up with the 15 hatch into 15 OV into eventually a base as well. This does mean, though, that the third is going to be a little bit delayed. Yeah, this pylon block over here. Snipe on the drone, not bad whatsoever, but Serral already anticipated this and he sent a drone towards the right side right here of the map. Still, cute little move right there by MaxPax, forcing his opponent to delay the third base, even if it's only just ever so slightly. It's a Stargate opener here from MaxPax, and he's going straight into a Void Ray. Also not something that we see all too often. Okay. Now, yeah, there's an Overlord out here. Sorry, buddy. You're gonna be super dead in just about a minute or so. Maybe I shouldn't let you know. Maybe I should just let it happen. But you're definitely going to be in a little bit of trouble. There's another Overlord over here. There's a couple more that are scouting for incoming adepts. Those will have to be sent back home as soon as that Void Ray shows up. Oracle on the back of this as well. MaxPax at this point, by the way, has figured out that indeed the opponent did go for the third base right here in, like, I guess the vertical position, which is fair enough. OVs are going to be flying back home, but they're so slow. I guess this one will be, it will be okay. If Max decides to go after this one, though, he might be in a little bit of trouble. Okay. Hatchery is going to finish up eventually. The Queens will not be able to cover the bases with creep just yet. Nice little snipe right there of that tumor. Yeah, but that third base is going to be A-okay. Oracle right now, coming across the map as well. Twilight Council on the back of this. Okay. So, MaxPax playing a very feisty game here to start things off. So first off, that block of the opponent's third base, then a Void Ray first into an Oracle. I think the Void Ray is mostly just here to deny a little bit of mining. Okay, he's going to be able to fly those units back home using the recall ability. Oracle gets 2 kills. I mean, this is a nice start. Curious to see what the Twilight Council is going to be for, because the Void Ray start, it's pretty mediocre for most situations. However, it's really good at denying scouting. So this looks, okay, this looks like a pretty normal opener right here from MaxPax. But this is a delayed glaive adept opener. This is maybe something that Serral is not going to expect, and it certainly can catch him off guard. So generally speaking, whenever we see glaive adepts, we see it getting rushed out. This is now a good couple minutes later than it would ordinarily be, but there's a good chance as well that Serral has not played against an opener like this in at least a little while. And we saw 2 more drones. Actually, no. One, I guess, was killed by that first adept. So 1 more drone getting killed right there by that Oracle. Now, the timing right here of the 3rd Nexus makes this look to the Zerg like it's just a regular good old macro game. So it could be like a Blink follow-up or something like that. But yeah, the Twilight Council here was a little bit early for that. We have a Robo facility on the back of this. Serral has no idea that this is the case. He has no idea that he's just about to be attacked by a ton. Oh no, a Hydra then is really not what you need. He is not aware of the fact that he is just about to be attacked by a ton of Adepts. So Adepts deal bonus damage against light units, and it turns out that, well, both Hydras as well as Zerglings are light units. Obviously, if you have overwhelming numbers, it can still play out in the favor right here of the Zerg. But this is not something that I think our finisher here was prepared for. Serral being tricked into, yeah, playing a macro game, trying to skip the Roachwarren, trying to skip the Baneling Nest as well. And he actually is going to take quite a bit of damage while I say that. So far, not any drones have fallen just yet, but got a feeling they won't be all too far behind. Nice reroll over here, though. Oh my god, Serral's so good at these crisis managements, man. There's a chance he can actually hold this. 9 Hydras are coming up. I mean, their damage output is not to be underestimated. They, generally speaking, die to Adepts, but if they can kill them before, obviously, the Adepts can kill the Hydras, I mean, there's still a chance that the glass cannons, I suppose, can, well, work out right here. We have a big warp in now inside of the main base. It's time to start darting between the natural as well as the main. I'm really liking what MaxPax is doing here. Yeah, Grooved Spines is a little bit easier to get now, but that's so many drones going down. Adepts are suddenly everywhere. Whenever they start shading multiple times back and forth, generally speaking, that means that Protoss is finding themselves in a nice position. 27 workers go down. And it's not even the end of it. Okay, 29. 29 for now. Can we get 30? I'm like an auctioneer. I think we can get 30. Yeah, we most definitely can. So really the only option right here for Serral in my mind is to go for an all-in. What he decides to do though is just hold down the drone button and try to get back into the swing of things. I mean, it's an ambitious move. I just don't see how that's going to work out, but obviously he does have those larvae, right? And the larvae will allow him to, well, get a ton of drones going very quickly. Robo Bay on the back of this right here for MaxPax. He decides to go double Robo Colossus. I mean, I think this is what we can consider a landslide victory here for the Protoss. And considering Serral never really loses against Protoss in general, this is a really good start to a best-of-5 series right here for the Dane. Okay, so as soon as Extended Thermal Lens finishes up, I just don't see what in the world could be done here. So I think what MaxPax wants to do is just go for another timing attack. Although he does decide to plant down the 4th Nexus, I think that's probably mostly just for safety, as he's not adding on any additional workers at this point. He just has 68 probes, which is enough for 3 base saturation. No additional, he adds on 1 more. Not a lot of additional worker production from there. Okay, Serral sees the army in the middle of the map. I didn't catch it on camera, but it's MaxPax who obtains the victory in game number 1. Game number 2, we find ourselves on the map Hecate. 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 No, apparently it's pronounced Hecate. So, Hecate, the Greek goddess of boundaries, transitions, crossroads, magic, the new moon, necromancy, and ghosts. A very busy goddess indeed. Serral once again opening up with the 15 hatch right over here on the low ground into a 15 overlord, and then eventually a spawning pool as well. So, interestingly enough, apparently you can send a probe across the map and block the opponent's 3rd base. Serral anticipated it by, well, I think sending a drone pretty much immediately as soon as he saw the pylon block over at the 3rd. This time around though, MaxPax being 1-0 up decides to cut a corner. So he is not scouting whatsoever. This is not what I would expect you to do on the ladder. I don't think it's a very good choice. As a matter of fact, I think you should send out a probe right at the very start of the game to try and block the Zerg's natural expansion. Doesn't work so often against a 15 hatch, but There's no denying that against a quote-unquote normal Zerg build order, like what all the other top-level Zergs are playing right now, it is a very popular start. Very annoying to get your natural block. But anyways, MaxPax decides to cut that corner in this particular game, and I guess he's gonna scout with an Adept. Now, obviously, the problem here is that if Zerg decided to be aggressive in any way, shape, or form, he would be in a ton of trouble. But not the case here in this particular match. Serral doing Serral things. I mean, when's the last time you saw Serral going for a one base all-in? In any matchup. It rarely happens, but it's a pretty popular build on the ladder, of course. There's always guys out there that suck in one matchup in particular. There's always Zergs out there like, yeah, I enjoy ZVT, I enjoy ZVZ, but I cannot get my head around Zerg versus Protoss at all. I'll just be cheesing it every single time just to get it over with. And, well, if you don't scout with a probe, you will just simply lose against every single type of early game all-in that the Zerg player can throw at you. This time around, though, safe choice right here by MaxPax. It's gonna be a Void Ray first once again. Something I normally recommend you avoid. Smash like and subscribe, guys. Sorry. Terrible joke. It is, however, going to be a Void Ray once again. I think this is like what the kids like to call a mid-opener. I don't think it's very strong. However, it's good if you want to play tricks on your opponent, right? So I think just seeing a Void Ray and taking the previous game into consideration, I think Serral is going to go Roach Warren this time around, and he's not going to skip it. We may see Hydras later on, but probably not quite as quickly as what we saw in the first game of this Best-of-5. I just think it's a little bit too risky, so Serral sees an identical opener here this time around. I highly doubt we're going to be seeing the exact same follow-up here from MaxPax, because being a one-trick pony doesn't generally work very well at this level of play. If he does decide to go for the same build twice, I'm secretly hoping that Serral is gonna show him how to shut it down. Okay, Oracle goes across. Third base, maybe in a little bit of trouble, but nothing all too crazy. That Void Ray is mostly just here to snipe OVs. You can see that the Overlords have already returned back home. They don't really want to be in an exposed spot. This time around is going to be a Twilight Council together with a Forge. Could be a good old Blink opener here. Oh, on the back of it, he does actually get one of the queens. Yes, queen. Or, I guess no. No, queen. Anyways, he does get the Twilight Council together with the Forge, which is a big indicator he wants to go here into the Blink Researcher. At the very least, something a little bit more macro-focused. Could be +1 ground together with charge. What are we gonna do? Yeah, it is gonna be charge. Okay, interesting, because that's a load of gateways he's adding on. Generally, this goes paired together with a... what's it called? A Templar Archives. So basically, you go for an Archon Zealot all-in. And again, that Void Ray is quite good at denying the opponent most of the scouting info, right? I mean, at least Overlords will not be able to get any intel here, assuming MaxPax is on point. There's always a chance, of course, that Serral manages to sneak out, for example, an Overseer, right? And he gets into the opponent's base somehow, but generally speaking, this is going to be difficult to scout for the Zerg, and I like it. Yeah, a couple different follow-ups here from our Protoss player. So even though the Void Ray itself, I mean, it normally would not be killing a queen, at least it shouldn't be killing a queen. Normally it's not by itself that strong of a start. The follow-up, however, can hit like an absolute truck because the opponent doesn't necessarily expect it. This time around, though, only a single worker was killed here by MaxPax, which means that Serral is very happy with the way that this game is going. Once again, though, okay, he did not skip the Roach Warren. Okay, we once again do have a quick Hydra then, but there is a safety Roach Warren here. There may have been a safety Roach Warren in the previous game. I looked around for it. Maybe I had it on the screen and I said there was no Roach Warren. I don't think there was, though. I never double-checked the structures tab. I don't think so. But anyways, this time around, at the very least, Serral would be able to stop that Glaive Adept aggression a little bit easier. That's not going to be the case. We're going to go for a Photon Cannon over here, and we're just adding on loads and loads of production. So it's going to be 10 gateways on just 3 bases. So it doesn't get a whole lot more all-in than this. I think this would be an absolute banger of a start if MaxPax killed like 8 workers. Since he only killed 1, not quite as good. Hydra's once again coming up, by the way. Serral apparently enjoying the way that the Hydra works out with the new multiplayer balance patch. Couple zealots over here, tasked with killing whatever they can. 4th hatchery goes down, but that is not enough. We're gonna need more than just, well, a little bit of... Yeah, okay. A little bit of a hatchery here, because this is an expensive early game right here for MaxPax, and it's all led up to this. The slower he is, though, with this particular attack, the more units there will be for the Zerg. We have 6 overlords coming up. Serral actually hitting a supply block right now because those OVs get sniped. Eventually, though, yeah, I've got a feeling the longer that this goes on, eventually the more units Serral will be able to produce. So we do have a second robo facility together with a robo bay once again at home. I think that is going to be for that Colossus transition once more. New 4th base will be produced right over here at the 3 o'clock position. 4th Nexus now also goes down on the opposite location on the map over at the 9 o'clock. Okay. Interesting thing to go for 10 gateways though. I feel like you could have done this with 8 and then made the 4th Nexus a little bit quicker. Maybe MaxPax decided to just, yeah, make the executive call right there to not commit to the all-in anymore. It's very easy for a StarCraft player to go for a build order and then to get stuck with their decisions. I guess that is something that everybody does, right? Not just in video games, but also in real life. It's a bit of a fallacy. Sometimes you have to give up on the aggression when you have realized that it's not going to work out for you. So even though in theory it may be suboptimal right now to play a macro game off of the back of this, I think MaxPax looked at his opponent's army. He's like, yo, there's probably no way that I'm going to be able to break this, so I'll just try and be smart. Now, this is just Hydras. Colossi, like I said, are amazing against Hydras. Yeah, I was going to say, that's going to be difficult. Did we just activate Prismatic Alignment, MaxPax? Interesting choice. Anyhow, it makes the beam thick, okay? It also allows you to deal bonus damage against armored units, which these units are not. Okay, so in order to properly counter Colossi, Serral is going to need either a ton of units or something like Vipers. So I think that's probably why we have the Infestation Pit coming up right now. The Colossi should be a formidable choice, though, for at least the next couple of minutes. I don't really see exactly what Serral's going to be able to do about it. Now, one thing I do quite like here is that he's splitting up his Hydras. So we have a big Hydra ball in 2 locations. Sadly for him, MaxPax is good enough to also split up his units. War Prism in the main base, still being a nuisance. That's another Queen going down. Colossi, okay, actually getting caught out right here. One of them is going to go down. Second one is also going to get sniped. In the meantime, we did have a counterattack. No cancel on that base. Zealots in the main of the Zerg still going to town. But 2 Colossi down the drain is very painful, especially when they get killed by the unit that they were meant to counter. Zergling Hydra. Generally not a good unit composition against Colossi, but yeah, when you're not paying attention as Protoss, you end up losing all of the buffer in front of those Colossi. You obviously will still end up losing. Serral's actually just given up these units. He's just maximizing the damage they can do. They didn't realize it. He didn't realize it, but it's a one-way trip. More units on the back it is, though. Just trying to negate as much of that splash damage as possible. We have another warp in over here at the Zerg Natural right now. Oh my god. Is he winning this fight right now with like... Oh, that was actually so sexy. So, what's better than a concave? I guess a circle, right? I mean, when you think about it, the circle is just an extended concave. If you just keep extending your... That's actually so insane. The fact that he reinforced that with units that are... It's one of my favorite things about StarCraft, honestly. The way that unit counters work. One of the things that I can never wrap my head around whenever I play, for example, I don't know, Age of Empires, right? Good example in that game is... Men-at-Arms going up against archers, right? So any sort of light archers are useless, or at least they feel 99% useless as soon as there's an armored unit out there. In StarCraft 2 though, like technically speaking, sure, the Hydra gets countered by the units that MaxPax has been producing, but Serral's like, no, what about I just make more Hydralisks? And it's clear that MaxPax also did not expect it. I didn't expect it either. I thought he'd be rushing out Vipers, but he's still just at Lairtech, making Hydras and Lynx. I'm sure this is inspiring a couple of Zerg players as well. Looking at this replay, you guys are like, oh, I'm gonna give this a try in my own games. I wish you good luck. I wish you luck and many games, but I don't think you're gonna win all too many. No, you gotta really know exactly what's going on here. You gotta be able to capitalize on your opponent's mistakes. a lot of chaos is going around the map, right? So constantly those zealot warp-ins and harassment over at the 4th base, and you're also microing your units on the other side. This may honestly be mostly just a speed advantage here from Serral. The fact that he's able to just stay on top of that, APM-wise at least, a little bit more smoothly than MaxPax can. Speed is king. Now, that being said, this is by no means an advantage right now that Serral can just cruise with, right? I mean, it's not like if he just stops playing right now that he will obtain the victory in the next couple of minutes. He can still very easily overextend, but I think he's going to be pretty happy with this. Still, no 4th hatchery. He's got a nice army, but not really one that's particularly great against the army that MaxPax is making. If MaxPax manages to get like 100 supply worth of Protoss together, right? So if he like sits back for a little bit, maybe warps in some more stuff, those Hydras will probably get melted. But now we do have a Hive done. Now we do have Vipers coming up. We've got a Roach transition as well. So ultimately, after a very convoluted early and mid game, we end up with Roach, Hydra, Viper, which is one of the most basic unit compositions in StarCraft 2. It's not very popular on the professional level, I suppose, or at the professional level, but it's very popular on the ladder and one of the best unit comps you can play when you're trying to rank up and you want to dip your toes in trying out some spellcasters. Good old Roach Hydra, man. It's something we saw for years in the early days of StarCraft 2. Back then, there weren't any Vipers in the game, but yeah, it's a fun unit composition to play with, and even though it's not very popular, there's always going to be a situation and a place for it. Okay, so MaxPax clearly, yeah, a little confused about what the best next, or the best next move is, right? Like, he's not quite moving around the map as confidently anymore as he was just a couple minutes ago, but he is going for the 4th base, which I think is clever. He is finally remaking the Cyber Core as well, which is also not a bad idea. So he can actually make some sentries, for example. Still, he's a little too far out here. Yeah. Those Vipers showing up unscouted. 2 Colossi down the drain. We did see a couple of nice storms and feedbacks, but that's going to be the end for at least most of those High Templar too. And now suddenly this Roach army is on the prowl. Nice pickup right there by MaxPax, saving some of those units. Zealots want to try and collapse on top of the Hydras from the back, but well, Zerg also cleverly leaving a couple of Roaches in the back line there just to make sure that the Hydras have something to tank for. In the meantime, that's only a small chunk of the Zerg because the rest of the army is on the left. Serral is hitting the 3rd as well of the opponent. 4th base is going to go down, and ultimately, with 2 of these expansions down the drain, MaxPax's economy is no longer big enough to stay in this game, and it's Serral who obtains the victory in game number 2. Game number 3, we find ourselves on the map Solaris. MaxPax decided to send a probe across the map this time around, just trying to be as annoying to his opponent as he possibly can be. Serral once again opening up with a variant of the Extractatrix start. It's so interesting to me that he is the only top-level Zerg that is consistently going for this opener now in every single matchup. Zerg versus Protoss, Zerg versus Terran, Zerg versus Zerg, it does not matter. Serral decides to go 15 hatch now every single time, but the other top-level Zergs, like for example, well, Raynor, Dark, Solar, all of the other top dogs, none of them are opening up this way. They were experimenting with it a couple of months ago, but they've all decided, nah, I'm just gonna go for my regular good old 16 supply hatchery after a 13 supply overlord. Serral, however, makes an extractor, makes a drone, cancels the extractor, and then builds the hatch before the overlord goes down. It's a very small thing. It probably doesn't matter that much, and I guess it just allows you to take the natural expansion almost every single time, rather than being forced to macro from a 3rd spot instead, but yeah, it's just interesting to me, because you'd imagine after 13 years of StarCraft 2 competition that we have settled on how the first 2 minutes of a game can be played optimally, but apparently that's not quite the case. Which is kind of awesome. I actually think that's really cool. Anyways, this time around, it's not going to be a Stargate opener here for MaxPax. Instead, it's going to be a straight Twilight Council. As much as I think these builds can work out, I've mentioned this time and time again, it's great against weaker players like myself. Against top-level guys, though, I just don't see the Twilight Council being that good of a start. Although I said that recently in that series between Harstem and Raynor. Harstem ended up dealing a lot of damage with his Glaive to Depth, so maybe it's a possibility, but overall, I think this is a pretty mediocre start. Oh, it's gonna... Wait, I thought for a second we were gonna go for a Dark Shrine. We have 150 gas right now, what are we doing? We're gonna start up the Glaive to Depth research with 160 or so gas in the bank, MaxPax. Well, for an upgrade that costs 100 gas, that seems like you're accidentally delaying your own stuff. Maybe he was busy microing on the other side of the map. Maybe it's a fake out and he will cancel it after the Overlord dies, but that also doesn't really do anything. No chrono boost either on the Twilight Council, so this is a little bit funky. Are we gonna... No, we're not gonna play a trick on our opponent at all. We're just gonna sort of do a macro Glaive to Depth start. Now we're gonna chrono it. Okay, interesting. Anyhow, it's still gonna be a pretty quick third Nexus here, all things considered. One of the main downsides of making, well, anything that isn't a Stargate is generally that your third base is going to be delayed quite a bit. So in this particular instance, MaxPax is opening up with this start, but he's also going for a quick third Nexus off of the back of this. If this would have been a lot of Zerglings on the production tab for Serral for some time, I think he probably would have had a pretty good shot at killing the third. But now, yeah, I guess maybe he can still play a macro game on the back of this. I'm never a big fan of the Twilight Council openers, man. I really feel like it's a little too all-in-y and a little too easy for the Zerg player to deal with. So Serral, by the way, has decided to go for a Baneling Nest. So no Roach Warren or anything like that. We're just here to apparently blow up the Adepts and get it over with within about 3 seconds. He wants the next engagement against these Adepts. He wants that engagement to take about 3 seconds in total. Dark Shrine afterwards. That Dark Shrine is super late, though. Even with a Glaive to Depth into Dark Shrine opener, I think we normally see this one quite a bit sooner. So, as a Zerg player, you usually, if you suspect that it could be Glaive to Depth into Dark Templar, you usually go for Spores at like 4:40 to like 5 minutes or so, depending on what you suspect. So, this is not the most optimal time. I think 5:10 is like the latest you can delay it to. Although, don't quote me on that, okay? If you end up losing a game to Dark Templar because you delayed your Spores until 5:10, don't blame me on it. Anyway, Serral is just going for an all-out assault. Yeah, so he is fighting fire with fire. He is going for a Spore Crawler at home right now, but he is making, well, very few workers in this game. Only 37 right now are available. He is just going for a full-on Baneling Bust. Nice force field right there, though. Really lovely force field. Only problem here is that MaxPax only has a very limited amount of energy. So once again, yeah, there's one more force field available, but that'll be it. This third is gonna be in a world of trouble with the force field. Oh no! It's preventing the probes! Oh, well, at least... Okay, nah, they're still gonna go down. At least most of them stayed alive there initially. Now, we do have a couple invisible men here. With capes and sharp blades and all that. They're gonna be able to kill all of these lings eventually, but that is the end for the third. Serral taking a page out of Dark's book right there. You don't generally see Serral Baneling busting, but... Very interesting decision. So he saw his opponent going Twilight Council and he just held down the Zergling button. Trying to delay the Dark Templar here for just a while as well. In the meantime, Laris come up. We have a Roach Warren in the main base. And he's powering out drones once again. So we have a Spore over here, that's a detector. We have another Spore over here, that's another detector, of course. Nothing in the main base, but ultimately what you're looking for here as a Zerg is going to be an Overseer anyways. So you have mobile detection. And I think this is a, yeah, flying start right here, once again, for Serral. Okay. Now this is scary, right? Because Serral historically has always been a macro player. And over the last year or so, he's been mixing in stuff like this a lot more. It's those builds that are technically not optimal. So if you were to play StarCraft 2 like it's an Excel spreadsheet, it's one of those things that just, yeah, is measurably worse than playing a macro game every single time. But in a realistic scenario, where you're playing the same good old macro game every single time, your opponents can start abusing it, right? They can start... Well, for example, skipping that probe scout in the earlier stages of the game. They can start making small little moves. They can cut a couple of small corners that eventually will give them a big lead. Now, this is a nice little attack right here, though, from MaxPax, going through that speed circle. In the meantime, we did have a Zergling counterattack as well on the other side. Serral actually droning right now as these units are knocking at his front door. I think he's figured out that this is not really a committed attack right here by MaxPax. Instead, just a little bit of pressure to maybe scare the opponent into making a lot of army. Lovely play. Third Nexus is once again gonna start up, but all this time, Serral has had a major economical advantage. So he cut workers early on. So I think he settled at only like 37, 38 drones over there for like several minutes. Just massing Zerglings and Banelings. And then after sniping that third, that's when he decided to drone up. And ultimately, this is now MaxPax playing catch-up. Obviously, if that third Nexus wouldn't have gone down, the gamble wouldn't have paid off, but it turns out you can sometimes fight aggression with even more aggression. That's a life lesson right there, guys. Are your colleagues being a little bit too aggressive to you? Just be more... Okay, no, don't... Well, maybe. I don't know. Don't get upset at me, okay, if it doesn't work. Much like the Baneling bust. Don't get upset at me if it doesn't work. Okay. Archons and Zealots being cancelled here by Zerglings. That is... much like the Hydras against Colossi, not something we ordinarily see. Couple of Dark Templar, or no, sorry, Zealots over here on the right side of the map trying to be good. But ultimately, this is resulting in a situation where Serral is going to be able to go for the Road Ravager Ling Bane-based army. And MaxPax is barely keeping the third Nexus alive. Then again, though, he does have a third base right now. He is going into Storm. Obviously, the Baneling is weaker than it once used to be, and it's not like this is a unit composition that was particularly cost-efficient in the first place for Zerg. It's just that the supply count... yeah, it's kind of telling us the full story here. If Zerg, however, decides to attack into this base with, well, Storm done, I think there's a good chance that MaxPax can hold. Serral's waiting over here off to the right with a couple of Banelings, okay. Banelings will now no longer one-shot with +2 melee, but Serral has decided to go into missile upgrades here first anyway, so none of that is happening, but a nice little change for Protoss. Yeah, MaxPax is gonna need to have an engagement of a lifetime, because this army is no match for the Zerg. Unless Serral rolls all of his Banes into Archons or something. I mean... oh, contamination. I was wondering why that was no longer going up. Serral using the Overseer right there that he was scouting with to contaminate the Templar archives to delay the Storm research. And at this point, this Protoss base, but it was supposed to have Storm. It's completely exposed now. Oh my god. Okay, well, there are a couple Zealots on the other side of the map being annoying, maybe forcing the Zerg to split its attention. Eventually, the Storm upgrade does finish up, but the damage has already been mostly done. It's not like Roaches are the main target for Storm most of the time. I mean, they can still certainly, yeah, take a beating, but ultimately, if this is gonna come at the cost of your entire army, yeah, I think Serral has done it again. Absolutely brilliant game right here from the finisher. Taking chances, rolling the dice several times. And while it may be a little bit risky in the wrong scenario, I think he picked his strategy beautifully here in game number 3. Alcyone, game number 4. Alcyone, the map name, it's apparently one of the stars of the Pleiades star cluster, named after a mythical character. Really? There's a mythical character? A daughter of Atlas and Pleione? Oh no. More mythical names. Alright, anyways, it is what it is. I know a lot of you apparently are fans of having the StarCraft maps named after mythical or religious creatures. Personally, I am, or maybe characters is the better word. Personally, I'm not a huge fan, but star clusters, I can get after star clusters. That fits in with the science fiction theme quite nicely. Not so sure about mythical characters though. But anyhow, I guess there's a lot of overlap, right? There's a lot of overlap between... anyways. We've got ourselves a Stargate opener right here. Once again for MaxPax. Yep. Good choice. It'll result in a dead Overlord eventually. Sorry, buddy. Yep. Maybe you'll die because it's a Void Ray first. It's not. But ultimately, I think there's still going to be something shooting lasers at you. Be it a laser from a flying unit or from a ground unit, it doesn't matter, but... Otto the Overlord, who spawned in this game, Serral did not grow attached to him for good reason. He probably didn't even give him a name. I mean, I called him Otto the Overlord, but there's a good chance that, yeah, not the case. Anyways, that first Oracle, second Oracle on the back of it, that first Oracle, how much damage can it do? So this is the quintessential standard opener right here from Protoss. He decides to commit right now with the 2 Adepts inside of the main base of the Zerg. Hunting Zerglings, hunting, well, drones, and maybe creating an opportunity right now for the Oracle to come in. But Serral a little bit too good for that. He's decided to slow down. Okay, well, no way you're gonna get damage done now. Good movement right there by the finisher. I think that's 1 drone going down in total so far. Flawless game here for MaxPax, other than the fact that, well, he could have maybe flown in that Oracle in a little bit of a better way. Well, maybe gotten an extra drone or 2. Anyways. Yeah, the problem is when you play the most standard opener against Serral, this is also what he is best against. You almost have to throw a bit of a curveball as Protoss, because throwing it just straight on is, for the top level players at the very least, oftentimes a little bit too easy to counter. I mean, it's not easy, it's just something they've got a lot of practice with, right? So you're really looking for like 2 digits worth of drone kills here in the start of this game, and so far it's not really happened yet. So in every base there's multiple queens. In the main base there was a queen from the natural running on up, but also a spore crawler here. Maybe he can get the queen. Queen a little bit out of position here, okay. How many drones can we get? 1, 2. Miss target. 3, 4. Oh, missed target again. Ah, that's a shame. He probably could have had like at least 1 more. Adepts over here in the meantime trying to get some work done too, but now it's 2 adepts right here for 4 drones and 2 Zerglings in total. Not the start you're hoping for here as Protoss whatsoever. Okay. There's the Roachborn. We do have an evolution chamber. +1 ground weapons together with the Blink research. So MaxPax playing as standard a game as he possibly can in this particular match here. Okay, so let's see. Is Serral gonna be able to match him as far as standardness goes? I would not be surprised if he is more than happy playing the macro game here. Now, I'm curious to see what the normal macro game currently entails for Zerg, though, because in the past we would see, well, a lot of the same follow-ups quite a bit, but the Lurker, for example, is a little bit weaker now. The Roach Ravager Link Bane style is not quite as powerful as it used to be. Okay, it's once again a Hydra Den here. In the previous patch, whenever I would see a Hydra Den, I would immediately assume it would be for Lurkers. But we've already seen in this series so far that that may very well not be the case. So this is +1 missile, together with the +1, well, roach speed upgrade, I guess. And then also the Hydra Den and then an infestation pit. So we'll probably go into a hive. And ultimately, we'll probably just end up with Roach, Hydra, Viper once again, with maybe some Zerglings for support as well. At the very least, that seems to be where we're going. Yeah, look at that. Hydra's coming up. Maybe we're just getting the Roach speed here in case the opponent once again decides to go into like a lot of Colossi. It could just be like a... Oh, he cancelled it. Okay. So yeah, the Roach speed kind of threw me off. Serral just cancelled it. So I think he probably just made that in case it would have been like a Zealot all-in or like an Archon push or something like that. But now that he saw, okay, that's not quite the case, it's gonna be Blink Stalker instead, he decides to go just full-on Ling Hydra. So yeah, the Roach Warren really just a stepping stone. Really just a, oh shit, I don't want to die to anything stupid type of building. I'm a big fan of those types of buildings. I think they're very, very good. Ooh, Infestor's coming up too. So I think this is specifically done against Blink Stalker. So keep in mind that with the new multiplayer balance patch, Infestors now spawn with enough energy for a fungal growth. In the past, they would pop out of their cocoons with only 50 energy. Now they spawn with 75. The main downside for Zerg, though, and ultimately what is making the Infestor a little bit weaker overall in the late game, is that they will have 1 less range on the fungal growth ability. So against the initial group of Stalkers, I think the Infestors are going to be more powerful, but if the game goes on for long enough, the Infestors will probably lose some of their value. But there's a good chance that, like, I mean, since fungal growth, right, it inhibits the ability for units to use their movement skills, like, for example, Blink. There's a good chance that Serral suddenly shows up, throws a fungal growth on top of all of those Stalkers, and then jumps forward with the Lings and Hydras. And MaxPax is probably not assuming that that is going to be an option. Okay, almost. That was very close. These Infestors had a mission coming from in between the golden mineral fields right there. Hello? Whoa. Coming from in between the golden minerals right there, trying to catch this Protoss player off guard. Disruptor comes up right now for MaxPax, because apparently Colossi did not work out in game number 2. This does make it an even more micro-heavy army, though. Okay, moving forward, trying his very best. Infestors just stacking up more and more energy. Honestly, just good old Hydra Ling may be enough. This is one hell of a Zerg army. Yeah, Protosses are so used to playing against, well, Roaches and Ravagers that they almost don't expect these high damage Hydras to come out. I mean, Hydras have been used as baby lurkers for like the last 3 years. The Hydra is considered to be one of the worst units in all of StarCraft 2 for the Zerg, but... Oh, getting a Prism there as well is massive. Yeah, the timing of everything has changed a little bit. They have shifted to like maybe a minute or so earlier in total with the Hydra Den changes and the upgrade changes and the cost changes. The Hydra is still not that great of a unit overall, but the unit powers up faster than it used to in the past. So normally they wouldn't come online until like 30 seconds to maybe a minute later or so. And Serral is basically using that timing as an opportunity to maximize the damage he can do to his opponent. Really lovely stuff. I don't know if it's gonna work out in the long run, because I can imagine that, you know, as the new patch gets figured out more and more over the next couple of months, that Protosses will figure out a way to deal with all of this pretty easily. But you can see here that MaxPax, yeah, caught with his pants down. Even if it's just by a little bit. Only a little bit down. Only a little bit down, okay? Viper's coming up as well now. Lurker Den on the production tab. We have the extended thermal lens coming up for the Protoss, together with another robo facility, so we will be going into Colossi here eventually. Fourth Nexus, by the way, is back up. And in the end, yeah, it's not even really that many worker losses here, so... Okay. Cool start right here for the Zerg. Definitely an advantage here for the Zerg, but... not one that is just gonna steamroll, you know, the rest of this match. It's not gonna be like what we saw previously in this series. Vipers? Oh. Ooh, Vipers are an amazing choice against both Disruptors as well as Colossi. Any Robo Bay unit is susceptible to them. Oh, nice blink. Comes at the cost of a couple of Stalkers, it seems, but ultimately, the Colossus will still get sniped. He also wants to go after that Disruptor here, preferably, but that's going to be a little bit trickier. One Infestor waiting over here. Whoop. I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough here for the Zerg now. MaxPax's reinforcements will allow him to push all of this back. In the meantime, we have a little bit of a Zealot run by over here, trying to be a nuisance. And now we're gonna go back into Roaches. Now, Serral did restart the Glial Reconstitution research, so he does have the Roach speed upgrade done. +3 though, all things considered pretty early here for MaxPax. Same right here for Serral. Already going into the +3 research. Ultimately though, we are headed into the Lurker direction. So with the new patch, the Lurker cannot burrow quite as easily as it used to in the past, so you can't reposition it quite as easily as you used to be able to. Once again though, look at the Zerglings and the Hydras chasing down Colossi. These are not unit compositions that they're supposed to be able to counter, but Serral sees a weakness in his opponent's army positioning and he immediately takes it as an opportunity. He's like, bro, you're not supposed to be out here. You're supposed to be sitting, you know, closer to your static defense, and if you're gonna be sitting out in the middle of the map, I will punish you for it. Okay, now suddenly we have a ton of Lurkers coming up. Is MaxPax brave enough to engage this right now as more Lurkers are coming? He doesn't know exactly how many Lurkers are currently burrowed on the ground. Does he have an answer against this many Disruptors? Well, the Adaptive Talents are gonna be done here very soon. Still powerful research, just not quite as powerful as it used to be. Immediately, we did have Disruptors coming up. Reinforcing Protoss units here are sent across the map, but it looks like the Zerg units that just popped out of the cocoon are gonna be A-okay. Abductions? Big abduction. That's not a Colossus down the drain. Yeah, beautiful. Honestly, beautiful Zerg gameplay. Look at him, microing that Hydra 2 against 2 Zealots. I wonder how many Zerg players are... How many StarCraft players in general? Zergs are seemingly a little bit quicker, but I wonder how many of them would be good at playing the piano as well, you know? Maybe that's quite the StarCraft 2 pro gamer transition to become a concert pianist instead. These guys really have some beautiful control of the keyboard already. Some powerful left hand, I guess, but the right hand may require some additional dexterity. Anyhow. Okay. Roach counterattack, Lurker counterattack on the left side of the map too. Trying to go after that newly acquired 5th base right here for MaxPax, which he is slowly starting to establish. I think 5 base eco would be amazing, but he has been bleeding out too many expensive units. Yeah, this is not what you normally see. Protoss is not really usually losing more minerals than the Zerg. Zerg is the race with the bigger eco. Zerg is usually the race, therefore, with the more mineral losses. Nice bowling over here, though, but the 5th base on the left side is dying. MaxPax doing a good job here, creating chaos everywhere, but Serral seems to be on top of all of it. Archon's coming up right now. He wants to jump this unit comp here eventually. Maybe he should do what we saw Mr. Harstom do recently, right? Where he was just doubling down on just good old Immortals and Archons. Maybe don't go bowling. Maybe just go for that backbone. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, though, we've got ourselves an Ultra Cavern together with a Spire. This isn't even Serral's final form, but it looks like it is not needed. Serral deals with all of the run-bys, he controls the opponent's economy, and he seems to win basically every battle I've seen in this game. Ultimately, the winner of this week's Kung Fu Cup, it's Serral. He wins 3-1 over MaxPax. Hey, real quick, if you made it all the way until the end of this video, please take a second to hit the like button. Thank you!